as to how much fragile they were. While they were very intelligent, they hardly had any inner strength. And I found that true even about kids, and I was a little troubled about it. Why are we raising up kids who are so intelligent, so brilliant, but then they cannot stand any criticism? They seem to lack some kind of an inner strength. And in those days, I saw Dr. Avinash's uh, WhatsApp, status, and he had written down some thoughts which completely echoed what I was feeling. And so I immediately kind of reached out to him. And he was so kind and gracious to agree to do the talk. It took some time to get around to doing it because of some of our seasonal activities that come, with church and all of that. But finally, we are here, and we are so glad that so many of our friends also are here from other faith, and we hope that this will be useful for all those who attend. And so, parenting in the modern era, how do we build resilience among our kids? Just a quick introduction of Dr. Avinash Desousa. He's a consultant psychiatrist and founder trustee, Desousa Foundation, Mumbai. So Dr. Avinash will now be invited upon to speak for a length of time, after which we will go into Q&A. So kindly hold on to your questions till then. Okay, over to Dr. Avinash. Welcome, Dr. Avinash. Thank you so much for coming over here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone, and it's a pleasure to be here. What I'm going to share with you is a few thoughts about parenting, thoughts about raising children. And I'm here as a psychiatrist who works with children, and I'm also here as a parent of 16-year-old. So I've been through the parenting journey, and at the same time, I've also seen a lot of children who come to me in my clinic, and as a result, I sort of see a lot of issues that do come up. Now, to start with, let me tell you that there is no fixed rules when it comes to parenting a child. What is very important to understand is every child is different, and I always get a number of parents who come to me and say that my child is a little shy and he's introverted, and please, can you suggest some therapy or counseling whereby we can change him? Or you get others who say that my child is a little aggressive. There are some who say my child is very timid. There are some who say my child is not able to express his emotions. Well, I always believe that all children are different, and we need to bring up children the way they are. So we have some children who may be very sensitive by nature. We may have some children who don't get affected by anything. We may have some children who react very verbally when told something. There are some children who don't react and keep everything inside. So what's important is that as parents, we have to recognize that all these traits, all these characteristics are genetic. So whatever, if you have an aggressive parent, you'll have an aggressive child. If you have a parent who's shy and introverted, you may have a child who's shy and introverted. You may have also sometimes a parent who probably is anxious. You may have an anxious child. You have a parent who's depressed or sad. You may have a depressed child. So there are multiple factors that sort of play a role. Secondly, what's very important is that I think something which lacks in a lot of our modern families is that parent-child communication has to constantly go on. I think what usually happens is that the communications we have with children are very often what I refer to as mundane conversations, in the sense that, have you had your dinner? Have you had your lunch? Did you finish your tiffin? Did you go for the tuition? Did you finish your homework? And have you packed your bag for tomorrow? Have you done this, done that? If there are remarks in the calendar, we sign them. I mean, these are the mundane kind of questions that parents ask. Not many parents are aware of who their children's friends are, who they're mixing around with, who they are meeting. They're not aware of how their child's day was. And I think a little time has to be spent in talking to your child on a day-to-day basis about their day, telling them about your day. So that little bit of sharing at a family level has to happen, so that they understand. And I think children who are in their teenage years particularly understand. And even if you discuss a few things about the house and what you all are planning and multiple things as a family, and I think that's something which is very important. And I always say this, that the family must have at least one meal a day together if possible. That's something which is very important. It may be lunch, it may be dinner, it may be breakfast, based on your schedules. But one lunch or one dinner, one breakfast, one meal together is very important, so that you get some time to interact. And the breakfast table is a place where I think you shouldn't have gadgets, and you should probably be talking to each other. A lot of people ask me that, what is your viewpoint about the fact that we have teenagers who are addicted to mobile phones, we have teenagers who are addicted to, even young children are addicted to gadgets. And I think what has happened is COVID made everybody digital. And I think when COVID came in, we had a lot of people who had to buy their children a phone or an iPad because school was online and a lot of things happened online. And I think what happens as a result of this, or the problem because of this, was that children who probably would have got a phone or an iPad 2 or 3 years later got it prematurely, and a lot of children got hooked onto the online media very early. Young children went on to social media, they went on to websites, they also got some premature exposure to pornography, they also got some exposure to videos which they shouldn't see. So multiple things happened. And children also had a phone, so they got access to WhatsApp. So a lot of things happen online. Now, it's very important that I tell parents that taking away the phone or taking away the iPad is not always the answer. A lot of people tell me that, I have confiscated the iPad and I have confiscated the phone and I have kept it under my. The child does need the phone. We can't deny it, because the child is probably going to tuitions. There are tuition groups, there are school groups, there are academic groups. The tuition teacher has her own WhatsApp group. So multiple things are happening on the phone. And the child would need the phone, but it's the hours of use that we probably will have to monitor. So what the child is doing online is very important. So I always tell parents that if you have a child who's a chess player and he probably is playing or analyzing chess games for 3 or 4 hours, it's something that we sanction. But if we have a child who's seeing a Netflix series for 3 or 4 hours, it's something that we feel is a waste of time. But sometimes the series may be something which is a learning experience for the child. It may not be just a hopeless series that he's seeing. It may be a very good story, a very good meaningful series. So the content of what the child is seeing online is what matters. Most children are on Instagram today, and I think most children have more than one Instagram account. There is a good Instagram account, I think, which their parents are aware about. And there are at least 4 or 5 other Instagram accounts that their parents are not aware about. So the child has multiple Instagram accounts. So when you see his good account, you feel very nice about it and you feel that it's a nice account. The other accounts are with usernames and DPs such that you're never able to probably locate them, even if you try. And there are separate accounts for separate groups of friends. And they use Instagram to chat, to video call, and they do all sorts of things on Instagram. Apart from that, there's a social media site called Be Real, on which children are there, wherein they post at the moment. So if I'm having dinner, I post what I'm doing. If I'm reading a book, I post what I'm doing. It's Be Real. There's nothing fake. You're posting what you're doing at that moment. So these are the kinds of sites that children are on today. There are some gaming sites like Reddit and other sites also which children are on. Now, it's not that social media is bad, but whenever I go to schools, I speak to a lot of children about rational social media usage. And I talk to them about etiquette when they're on social media, and the fact that they shouldn't pull someone down, and they shouldn't bully someone online, or they shouldn't tease someone online, or they shouldn't troll someone online, which is very, very important. It's also very vital that they also we speak to children about the fact that they could get accidental exposure to sexual content online. And if that happens, fine. It's fine. It does happen. All children get access to it and they get used to it. But if they want to have a conversation about it, they must have the freedom to have it with their parents. And it's very important that children are told about this. In fact, I visit a number of schools where we conduct sex education sessions, and we don't call it sex education anymore. We call it personal safety for the child, because it's got more to do with their own sexual exposure and other things, and it's something that works. And the fact is that there was a time when we used to teach children about male anatomy, female anatomy, and how the reproductive system works. Now I think they know all that by the time we already go to meet them. So from their questions, you can realize that they're very aware, knowledge-wise. So I remember we've spoken to 9th and 10th standard students, where we've spoken to them about pornography, we've spoken to them about abortion, we've spoken to them about contraception, because these are things they ask. And very often I feel it's better that a doctor or someone qualified answers these questions, rather than probably having to probably go and seek answers from people who have half knowledge. So that is something which is very important. I think children should have very frank conversations with parents. And I think what's very important is that as parents, sometimes we tend to override our children. We tend to tell them that we've seen life more, we know better, we know what's good for you, so this is what you're going to do, and there's no argument about this. And the child's viewpoint is never taken. And I feel that at least hear the child out. And if the child has some rationale in what the child wants to do, we could probably have a discussion, reach some consensus, see where we are, and on the basis of that, probably take things ahead. But I think also what's important to understand is that children may not always be wrong. So, we should hear their viewpoint and give them a chance. I always tell parents that children are not given a chance to fail. It's very important that they should be given a chance to fail. Let them fail in an exam. Let them fail in some activity they're doing. Let them realize they're wrong, rather than we telling them firsthand, that this is not right. Let them learn by experience. We all have learned by experience, and let them learn by experience as well. Another thing is, I also tell children at all ages that we have to teach children to handle rejection and criticism. That is something which is very important. I mean, you will get teachers who criticize, you will get teachers who can be a little rude, you will get friends who leave you. Children have to learn to understand how to handle that. Children get very upset when their peers discard them or leave them. Peer groups throw them out. It's very upsetting. So I always tell parents that we have to teach children to handle rejection. It's very important that if someone says no to them, they have to know how to handle it. And it has to be accepted that you can't always get what you want. I mean, you will always have a friend that probably cheats you. You may have a friend that leaves you for another group. You may have a girl or a boy who you propose to and the girl says no, or the boy says no. I mean, these things can happen. You will also, it doesn't mean that, you're not good looking or you're good for nothing or you're hopeless. It's just that that person doesn't have the same emotions that you have. So they have to understand that these rejections can happen. They can fail in a maths test. They can fail in a terminal exam. These are things which are very important that children learn. I remember parents making such a fuss about a child failing in a terminal exam. And I always said, it's okay. Who's going to ask him at 30, why you failed in a particular terminal exam? No one is going to ask him, but we still make such a fuss about it that, the academics is always at the forefront. I mean, I remember I was taking a session for 9th standard students, and a child told me that, sir, I studied very hard for my maths exam, and I got 18.5 out of 20 in my exam. And when I went home and told my parents, the first thing they wanted to know was whether anyone got full marks. Then they wanted to know who got 19. But he said there were children who got 19 and who got full marks. So there was very little appreciation for the fact that I got 18.5. So he says, what do I then study for? He says, and he says that even if I get 20, they will say, oh, what is so great? Another 10 people have got 20. So there's nothing great in what you've done. So he says there's never appreciation for my efforts. He said that the fact that I was struggling and from there I've come to 18.5 out of 20 is not appreciated. So I think I don't want to study maths and I don't want to put in an effort. Sometimes it does happen. I mean, I've seen parents compare children. Don't do that. Don't compare children. You will have some child who's good in maths. I mean, it's always there. One or two children in the school do well in chess. Everybody wants to start teaching their children chess. One or two children, perform in some music competition and do well. They want everybody to start learning music. No, it doesn't work that way. Let your child decide what the child wants to do. It's absolutely fine. I remember a parent telling me that, I put my child for guitar, he learned guitar for 2 months, then he left it. Then I put him in badminton, he learned badminton for 2 months, and then he left it. Then he said he wants to learn skate, so I put him in skating, then he left it. So I said, isn't it good that he knows three different things, little, little? That's far more important than, at least I said he can play one or two songs on the guitar. He can skate a little when he wants. I said he can play badminton. I said put him for tennis, put him for cricket. Let him learn everything little, little. It's absolutely fine. It's a good thing. He doesn't have to be number one in whatever he does. But the parent feels, no, I mean, he should excel. He has no choice. So how will we know? I said, even in a school where I work, I remember we bought all musical instruments and we have told children that you have to play everything. Only then you will probably know what musical instrument appeals to you. Unless they actually touch and play everything, how will they know? We can't decide for them, Baba, your hand is good, you play tabla, or your, breath is good, you play flute. No, let the child play. The child has to play and decide. Also, I think what's happening in today's era is that children suffer from what I call nature deficiency disorder. They are not in touch with nature. I mean, we live in the city of Mumbai, you all are in Navi Mumbai, and I always say that how many of our children have seen a cow being milked? No, no one, not many. How many of them have, caught a butterfly in a garden? No, not many. How many of them have gone to the terrace of their building and slept under the sky? No one has ever done that. I mean, we've done all that when we were small, but no one has, ever done that. How many of them have actually rolled in the muck, got dirty, come home, and then have had a shower? No, parents feel, no, you can't dirty your clothes, you look at any infection, you can't work in the garden. I mean, we used to, we used to plant trees and we would watch the tree grow. I mean, I don't see children, doing those kind of things. We used to go to a garden and pick up all sorts of leaves, keep them in a notebook, and then look at the leaf after many months and see how it has become. But I don't see children, doing that anymore. I remember in the rainy season, we used to collect some, I don't know, we used to call them the pit flower, and we would collect those seeds, put them in the water, and they would burst, and we would enjoy those phenomenon, which I don't think we see now. I mean, so I always say that, I mean, children have to enjoy and understand nature. In fact, we used to wait every day and, see the different phases of the moon, which I don't see children doing now. They're seeing it on YouTube, they're seeing it on Netflix, they're seeing it everywhere, but they're not actually, doing it anymore. So that is something which I think is something which is important. Children are not allowed to fall down. I see parents who are so particular. No, he shouldn't hurt himself, he shouldn't injure himself. It's very normal for children to fall, hurt, scrape their knee. I mean, these are things which are very normal aspects of childhood and adolescence that have to be there. I know it's very easy for me to say that don't focus on the academics. Yes, but the academics are important, but not every child is going to excel in academics. I mean, not all of us have excelled in academics. So it doesn't mean that, everybody who doesn't excel in academics won't do anything. They'll still do. They'll still do something in their life. It doesn't mean that they're going to be a waste in life. So it doesn't mean that the academic success is the only thing that matters. No, it doesn't. There are many other things that also play a role. And I think it's important that parents realize that a very, very important facet is never tell your child he's good for nothing. A lot of parents I've seen tell their child, you're hopeless, you're good for nothing. See this child, see that child. And children also will retaliate. They'll tell you that, I wish you were never my mom, I wish you were never my dad. These kind of conversations will happen. It's a part of the entire parenting process, and it will happen. There's nothing to feel ashamed and affected by it. It's a part of the entire parenting process. And I think what's important is that we need to build children who are, resilient. I always say this, that our children have seen a lot. I mean, they've seen, I think, floods to some extent. They've seen COVID. So they've seen a pandemic, which I think it's a good thing. It's a good learning experience for them. They've also learned that, okay, in life, whatever you have can be taken away if some disaster happens. So it's something that they've learned. And I think, yes, in schools also, children have to realize that their overall growth is very important. I always see parents who come and tell me that in the 10th, he will not play any sport. It's okay, let him play. He has to have some outlet. In the 10th, he won't go to any birthday party. Why should he not go? He should go. It's absolutely fine. If he doesn't go, he has no social life. Why should he not have a social life? It's important. And I think it's important for parents also to realize that today boys and girls can have a normal relationship. They can be friends. It's not necessary that they, just because a boy and girl are together, they're boyfriend and girlfriend. Not necessary. They could just be two people who are supporting each other. I mean, today, if you look at the younger children, children in schools, I think boys and girls who are in the same school, I mean, even for that matter, putting their hands around each other or hugging each other is very normal. It's not something which, in our era, it would be regarded as, something that you would only do to someone you love. It is not something that you would do to a friend, because we were brought up that way. But today's era is very different. Boy and girl having coffee doesn't mean they're in love. It's a very normal phenomenon. So parents have to also realize that, all these things uh, come up, and all these issues come up. And academics will always happen. Academics will always go on. School will finish, college will finish, everything will finish. We don't want parents to leave their child with bad memories of their childhood. We want parents to leave their children with good memories of their childhood. It's very, very, very important, that this happens. Um, I will give you a personal example. When I was in the seventh standard in my school, I was a very shy, introverted kid, and I remember a lot of the teachers said, "Oh, he's good in academics, but why is he so shy?" And I remember one of my English teachers told me that, I'm going to help him open up and change his personality. And she told me that you have to take part in the elocution in school. And I told her, "Ma'am, there is no way I can take part, because if I go on stage, I'll get frightened and I will forget the poem, let alone, take part or say anything." And she says, "No, no, once you go on stage, you'll forget about everything and you'll do it." And I remember I went on stage and I couldn't say a word because I was very frightened of the entire crowd. And without saying anything, I came down, and I was obviously upset because my class sort of lost because of me. But luckily in my class, people said that you were not the right choice. There was no reason why she should have sent you. It's not your fault. The person who was good was not sent. So luckily they were supportive. And when I came home, I remember I told both my parents that I'm not going to go to school from tomorrow. I mean, I've been they're going to make fun of me. They're going to probably laugh at me, and I'm not going to go. And luckily for me, I mean, both my parents were psychiatrists. So I spoke to them, I told them, and they said, "What went wrong?" And I said, "This is what happened." And my dad came with me the next day to school. And in our era, dad coming to the school was a very big thing. I mean, so people felt something major has happened if your father arrives in the school. So he came and he met the principal and he said, "I want to meet the teacher." And I remember in front of me, he told the teacher that my son is shy, he's introverted. Please let him be that way. We don't want to change him, so you don't change him. It's absolutely fine. And she had to apologize to him, and she said, "I'm very sorry, I will not interfere with him." And she said, he told her, "You dare not interfere with him. He's studying, he's doing everything fine, he has good friends. We don't want anything in his life to change." And of course, I felt very supportive because of that. And I went back to school, and the thing is, and then I remember I told my dad, I said, "Will it ever happen that, I will change?" He said, "Time will make you change naturally." And then, of course, I became a doctor. I began to talk to people. I began to teach. So everything happened very naturally. I didn't have to undergo any training to sort of, change. So I think it happens with life. You change. So children who are introverted in childhood may change. Children who are extroverted may become shy. So there are multiple things. You change as a person as you grow. The last two things that I want to share before we sort of open the session for questions is that never hit your child. I remember parents think it's their birthright to hit children sometimes. And I think, no, you shouldn't. And you will feel upset. You will feel angry. You will feel very, very frustrated at times. But that still doesn't mean that you will raise a hand on your child, for the very simple reason that the child, every slap you give the child is going to make his self-esteem go down. So and you're the only relationship who he knows he can go to whatever happens. Please tell your child, whatever happens, you will come and tell me. If you even done the biggest mistake of your life, you will come and tell me. I'll support you, I'll guide you, I'll see you through it. I may be upset, but I'll still stand by you, whatever happens. So please come and tell me. Also, if you see your child do something wrong, like sometimes we see children with the wrong people, we see some children smoke, we see some children vape, we see some children probably, doing some other things. You see him or her with a girl or her with a boy. Don't react on the road. Let the child come back, talk to the child very nicely, find out what happened. Don't just get upset for no reason. These are things which are very, very vital. And I think what you say to your child matters the most. And I think that's the only thing that remains, in your life over a period of time. Uh, and in today's digital era, I mean, parents, children all stay in contact, but the only thing that remains is this. And I think what's important, and I think very important, is that parenting is a journey. There are no perfect parents. I think there are no perfect children. There are just a large number of perfect moments that you will have along the way. So you'll all have multiple perfect moments. You'll have bad days. You'll have good days. You'll have some very bad days. And, there'll be days when you feel, has our parenting failed? No, it's not failed. It's just that, it's a bad day. I mean, there'll be days when you feel proud of your parenting. And those are things which, will happen, and you will feel very proud of your parenting. So even as parents, I say, you don't sit back and blame yourself and say that my parenting is good for nothing. No, your parenting is good. It's not bad at all. I mean, everybody's been a good parent here. It's just that sometimes, yes, some failures happen, and it's absolutely fine. I mean, we all can probably, fail as a parent. It's absolutely fine. But we learn. As children learn, we also learn. We learn to handle situations. And I always say the true behavior under stress is the behavior of the parent, not the behavior of the child. Because the child will only handle stress well if the parent handles stress well. If the parent does not handle stress well, there'll be a lot of problems. So I think it's very important that how you speak to your child, what you tell your child, and we have to build children's self-esteem. So I always say that you have to fill your buckets of the child's bucket of self-esteem with so much of love, so much of affection, that nobody can poke a hole there and drain it dry. It has to be so overfull that nothing will help the child better. Thank you very much. I will be very happy to answer any questions that you all would have.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Avinash.